My very sincere greetings to all of you, and it is once again my great pleasure and privilege to be able to spend some time with all of you for this Facebook Live session. We have gone through a lot of questions that all of you have sent, and we've tried to consolidate those questions, and one by one we will try and answer these questions in our Facebook Live sessions. The question that we want to take up today is how to handle stress. Hundreds and hundreds of people who follow us live have asked this question: how to handle, how to manage stress in our life. So this is the particular point for discussion for our Facebook Live session this evening. Gaurangi Dasi, Hare Krishna. Karan, Hare Krishna. Diane, hello. And Sogata, Jai Shri Krishna. Satyanarayan, good evening. Rahul, Hare Krishna. Itu Gupta ji, good evening. Mansi, very very happy to have you here with us. Rohit, good evening to you. Jewel, Hare Krishna. Leowin, all the way from Philippines, thank you for joining us all the way from Philippines. Swaminathan, Pranam, Shashwat, thank you very much for joining us again. Sumit, Hare Krishna to you as well. I'm really glad to be able to spend this time with all of you this evening. So during as I was going through all of these questions about stress, one gentleman had asked, is it possible to live a life with no stress at all? And my answer is a no. There's no question of living a life which is free from stress. We are all going to have to go through stress in some way, shape or form, in some area of life or the other, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whether it's due to some financial problems, whether it's due to some personal issues, whether it's due to political situations. There is certainly going to be stress in our lives. We cannot avoid stress. Just like if someone falls into a pool of water, he or she cannot avoid getting wet. You can avoid getting affected by the wetness. You can avoid getting a cold by boosting your immunity, but you cannot avoid getting wet if you are in a pool of water. Similarly, when we live in this world, particularly in this modern era, in this modern day and age, it's hard to not get wet. It's hard to not get affected by the situations that are around us. In fact, I always feel the very fact that there are ups and downs in our lives that cause this stress to us, it means we are living. Problems is a symptom of life. When there are ups and downs, that means we are still living. Like I always say, if you look at an ECG, the ECG is flat only for a dead man or a woman. Only when you are dead, the ECG is completely flat. But when you are living, the ECG is going up and down, up and down. So the only place where the line will be flat is in the graveyard. The only place where the line of stress will be flat will be in the crematorium. If you are living, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. There's going to be the low phases. There's going to be the difficulties, the problems, the challenges that are going to cause pressure, that are going to cause stress, and we cannot avoid it. Ladies and gentlemen, which is why the more we come to terms with the fact that it's going to be there, the more we come to terms with the fact that it's going to be an integral part of our life, and the more we accept this reality, that's how much we can actually deal with it rightly. So firstly, there's no question of a life with no stress, just like there's no question of falling in a pool of water and not getting wet. Now, I do not think pressure is always bad. We need the right amount of pressure. We need the adequate amount of pressure for our growth. You know, a diamond was once upon a time a charcoal, but under the right amount of pressure, under the right amount of stress, that charcoal turned into a glittering diamond. So I strongly feel that we need that right amount of pressure. We need that right amount of stress in order that we grow. When that pressure crosses the threshold of our tolerance, that's when it affects us negatively. When it's beyond our so long as the pressure is handleable and it helps us grow, it's great. But as soon as that pressure crosses the boundary, it crosses our tolerance threshold, it starts affecting us badly. negatively. It starts affecting our mental stability. It starts affecting our mental peace. It starts affecting our performance. It starts affecting our dealings with others. We start becoming irritable. We start throwing temper tantrums. We start moving out of alignment from a life of balance. And that's what we call stress. The positive side of it is the pressure for growth, but the negative side of it, which is beyond our ability to tolerate and handle, is the element that we call stress. Now, this is the element that we need to deal with, handle in a way that it doesn't harm us, in a way that it doesn't hamper our productivity, our performance, our relationships, our personal life. This evening I thought I would share with you a couple of my thoughts on how to handle and deal this negative element of stress, something that's getting beyond our threshold of tolerance, something that's hitting us so hard and getting onto our nerves so much that we're not able to lead a satisfied, fulfilled, contented, stable, balanced life. So I want to divide this entire discussion into 3 areas. Number 1, I want to talk about work. I'm sure loads of you out there are certainly resonating with me when I talk about work. Stress coming from work. Now believe me, you, hand on my heart, I truly do not think that work is the cause of stress. Loads of times people keep talking to me about this, that it's work which is stressing us. I do not think that work causes stress. I think it's the wrong kind of work that causes stress. Work that you don't enjoy. Work that's not what you want to do. Work that doesn't drive you. Work that you're not in love with. When you do something that you don't like, when you do something that you don't want, when you do something that's not your calling, when you do something that you don't enjoy, what do you expect? Stress. What do you expect? A negative emotion, a negative pressure on your head, because you don't look forward to it. Lots of times I say now that people who look for a weekend are the ones who are stressed. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that those who are looking for a weekend, everybody is like that. But if you want a break from our work, that means we don't enjoy doing it. That means just pressurizing us so much that we need a break from it. If you love something, you get up at 12 o'clock, somebody wakes you up at 12 o'clock in the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, you still will jump out of your bed to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Which is why I think it's the wrong kind of work that causes us stress. Imagine if you do the right kind of work, something that you love, something that drives you, something that you feel inspired to do, something that you're motivated by, something that consumes you so much that you practically forget everything around you. That kind of work is the right pressure. It's not that negative pressure. That kind of positive work that you enjoy and you love doing is the right kind of pressure that helps your personal growth at work. How can there be work without pressure? How can there be work with no pressure on your head? There is going to be pressure at work. The question that you need to ask yourself is it that positive pressure that comes from the work you enjoy doing, the work that you feel you're cut for, or is it the negative pressure that comes from the wrong kind of work that you hate doing, that you take completely disgusted with? Now I know that many of you are saying out there that that's right, that's true. But the fact of life is most all of you there are stuck with some kind of work that you don't like doing. Is that wrong kind for you? But it pays your bills. It takes care of all the bills. It takes care of all the taxes. It takes care of all the fees for your kids and children. It takes care of all the household requirements and needs that you have in your life. So, what do we do in such a situation? Don't you all there sometimes just feel so stuck in life, and I'm stuck with this work, I don't want to do it, I hate it to the core, but it pays off the bills. So I'm feeling stressed because I don't enjoy it, but it also it just gives me a paycheck which takes care of all our needs. What do we do in such a kind of a situation? The first thing you need to do is this. For those of you who are married or are in a relationship, you will know this. When you're in a relationship with someone or you're married, you don't like everything about that individual whom you're in a relationship with. There's certain things in that person whom you things that you just cannot handle, just cannot take, just cannot tolerate. There are other things in that individual which you're okay with, neutral, chalega, it's all right. But there are other things which you truly enjoy, which you truly connect to. No individual is perfect. No person whom you're going to have a relationship with is perfect. And so also, no job, no kind of work is perfect. There are going to be things in your work, in your job that you just don't like, which could also be a majority of it. There's going to be certain things in your life, in your work, which you may be okay with, but there may be some elements of your work, even one element in your work, that you may probably like a little bit. When you're stuck because of doing the wrong kind of work, but because it pays you and you can't move out, you're helpless, you're not going to be able to quit, then treat your work like a marriage. Treat your work like a relationship. You will have to focus on and pay your attention to that one element. If you can even identify that one part of your work, that one element of your work, which you probably can develop a liking for, it's going to make that pressure on your head, which is negative, a little lesser. If possible, quit it and do what you like. But for most of us, it's not a reality. Ground reality is that we are not going to be able to quit that particular job that you don't like doing, for the simple reason that there are real needs in the real world. So start liking a part of it. Like in a relationship, when you focus on that positive side and you start liking that particular side of the individual, your relationship is based on that higher purpose. If you just focus on the negative side, which could be a major side, or things that you're neutral to, it's not going to work. So my first advice to manage and deal with your stress at work in a job that you don't like is this: start liking an element of your work. If you don't know what it is, start identifying that one element which truly you can connect to and develop. Look forward to it every day. That one element, if not the entire part, and it's going to minimize at least a part of the negative stress that comes from your work. But that's not all. The second aspect, according to me, is also start adding to your life something that you truly love to do in your work. For example, you may be a software engineer and you may hate coding, but you may love, art, you may love music, you may love theater, whatever else it may be that you love. Start adding a little bit of that, even if it's not too frequent, even if it's once in a fortnight, even if it's once in a week or once in 3 weeks, whatever the frequency may be, you please start adding that element to your life. That kind of work, that kind of passion, that kind of calling, something that you truly love doing, I assure you, your stress levels will slowly go down. A, by starting to like some element of what you have to do at your work, and B, by starting to add some element that you love to do in your work. Together you can deal with that stress. Together you can manage with the stress that you go through at your work in a job that you don't like more effectively. So conclusively, on this work front, start liking something about the wrong kind of work where you're stuck, something that you don't love, and start adding a part of something that you truly enjoy doing, the right kind of work to your life. That balance can help you, find the ability and the strength to navigate your journey through your work life. The book that we have written, Life's Amazing Secrets, is going to be out on the 17th of September in all lead stores across the country. We are also trying to, Penguin's publishing it, we're trying to see if Penguin USA and Penguin UK and Penguin Australia can publish it also. If they're able to publish it, all of you overseas will also get the copies. Otherwise, you'll probably need to get it from the Indian stores or the Indian online portals. But in that book, we have elaborately discussed this subject matter of work, something that we have to do, something that we love to do, and how do we balance it, has been discussed elaborately in that book as well. Now, the second area of stress, leaving work aside, is our relationships. Now, one lady once went to a doctor. The doctor asked the lady, "So, madam, how's your headache?" The lady said, "Well, he's out of town." Now, believe me, more than the literal physical headache is the headache that people cause us. You know, people are sometimes just who they are. Our relationships are extremely satisfying and they're very, very meaningful to us. At the same time, people have their individual natures, people have their baggage that they carry with, have a certain upbringing that they've brought with them, which is why dealing with people is not as easy, you know. So, how do we handle the stress, the negative pressure that comes not because the nature of the right kind or the wrong kind of work, but because the people around us? Now, it could be personal relationships, or it could be relationships at work with our colleagues, with our bosses, with our managers, with our teammates, you know. But people, whether in a personal relationship, marriage, loving relationship with someone, friendship, or just a official relationship at work, people, I feel, causes more pressure than the work itself. So how do we handle this? Now, believe me, again, I think pressure, the right amount and the adequate amount of pressure is needed even in our relationships in order that we grow. Growth is a consequence of pressure. There's no question of growth without proper pressure. Whether it's a diamond, which was a charcoal under a pressure, or whether it's biceps or triceps, which is a muscle under the pressure of weights. There's no question of growth without pressure. So even in our relationships, there is going to be a need for that right amount, for that adequate amount of pressure. Let's say, for example, personal relationships, married relationships, relationships with your children, relationships with your parents, relationships with your friends. There is going to be a need for some pressure. In fact, whether you need it or not, it's going to be there anyways. Now, when that pressure is healthy, when that pressure is within the threshold of tolerance, that pressure gives us tremendous depth in our relationships. In fact, anybody can hang out with each other when times are good, when times are challenging, when times are trying, when times are testing times. That's when you can actually prove to each other how much you mean to each other in a personal relationship. Love is tested, and only in testing times is true love proven. And even at work, when there's a trying situation, when there's that pressure, difference of opinion, some kind of an uncomfortable misunderstanding going on with a colleague or a boss or a teammate, I feel very strongly, even that pressure, when it's within the right boundary, is very important and good, because it allows us to focus on the higher principle of cooperation, synergy, syncing with each other, trying to adjust, compromise in a way that a team works well. So that pressure is good, even in relationships with people. But the problem is when that pressure, whether in a personal or a work relationship, crosses the threshold of tolerance, that boundary, that is when it's called stress. That is when it gets onto our nerves. That is when it brings in so much distress and so much mental anguish that some people go into depression because of it. So how do we handle that? How do we handle people who are sometimes so pushy, people who are so dominating, that you kind of like, God, just give me a break from this guy. You know, whether it's a personal relationship or it is a work relationship. How do we handle it? So here are my 4 principles. I'd like to suggest to you these 4 principles. Believe me, these 4 principles work well in handling pressures, negative pressures that come from people. The first principle: change the frequency that your mind vibrates at. I'll explain what I mean. We are all vibrating at a certain frequency. Our mood, our attitude, our value systems, our belief systems, the way we are all vibrating a certain energy at a certain frequency. And the frequency of energy that we are vibrating at, we attract the same kind of energy from the other people as well. To give you a simple analogy, to give you a simple example, it's like you have a radio receiver and you're wanting to listen to some kind of a radio program tuning into FM channels, and you tune in your radio receiver to, let's say, 92.3 megahertz or whatever it is, FM, right? When you tune your radio receiver to 92.5 megahertz, or 90, example, 92.3 megahertz FM channel, then you attract that 92.3 megahertz of a frequency to come towards your radio receiver, and that's when you listen to the program on your radio receiver. So you attract 92.3 megahertz frequency, which is there around, only when you tune your radio receiver to 92.3. So when the radio receiver is vibrating at that frequency, that's the frequency that's attracted. So we are all like that radio receiver. The kind of frequency at which we vibrate, our energy internally vibrates, we are going to attract that kind of energy from people. So the first thing that I want to share in dealings with people, number one, is change the energy, change the frequency that you are vibrating at. What does it mean in literal terms? What does it mean in practical terms when you're dealing with people? Here's what it means in very simple terms. You bring out the bad or the good side of the other person based on how you deal with them. If you deal with them rightly, with the right energy, the right frequency, you'll attract that right energy, right frequency from them. So that's number one. Try and attract the right kind of energy. Now that sounds good, but a lot of times, despite your giving the right kind of energy, the right kind of vibe, the right kind of frequency, the right kind of words, the right kind of dealings, the right kind of actions towards them, still people are who they are. You cannot change people's natures completely, right? You can change a little bit by your dealings and bring out the good side, but there's still going to be people who are very rigid, people who are very hardwired, people who are very stubborn and very deeply rooted into their habits because of their upbringing in terms of how they deal with others. So what do you do then? The second point is, after changing your frequency, the second is communication. There is no substitute to clear, good communication. If you're being hurt by someone in your personal relationship, if you're being hurt by someone in a workplace relationship, I do not think there is a substitute to good communication. If you have a relationship, there's a great need that you communicate personally. But if you cannot, you will need someone who is an intermediate person, whether it's a boss at work, whether it's a friend in your personal relationship, whoever it is, to mediate and communicate, to talk to those people and tell them what about them is hurting you. A, how is it hurting you? B, C, why is it hurting you? And D, what could be done that this hurt that you feel can be stopped? What could be done to patch up in a way that this relationship moves on in the right direction and it doesn't seem to be too much on your mind in terms of stress and negative pressure? So yes, the second aspect is communication. What's hurting you? How is it hurting you? Why is it hurting you? And what can be done in a way that we can sort this out? So change your frequency, learn to communicate rightly. The third one, even despite communication, even despite speaking everything that you can clearly, either directly or with someone as a mediator between the two, both in personal and workplace relationships, or any relationship for that matter, believe me, still people can just remain who they are. I am sure you know this well. I've lived here in this monastery, in this ashram for 22 years. I've been an easy ride in terms of people. Sometimes people don't even have a bad intention. They don't have a bad intention. They don't mean wrong. But they're just who they are. That's their upbringing. That's their nature. That's their personality type. And it hurts you because your personality type is a different one. You've done communication. You changed your frequency. Still, that person's personality type doesn't change and it's still hurting you. What do you do then? And in a situation where you can't even move out. You're helplessly stuck in a personal relationship or in a workplace. You can't move out. It's just necessary. It has to, like I said, work. It just pays the bills. What do you do? In such a situation, the third thing I talk about is consume yourself with something much higher in a way that this drama around you affects you less. The drama around you affects you more because you get consumed by the drama. But if you get consumed by something that's much higher than the drama, give yourself to your work. Give yourself to your passion. If you're at the workplace and this guy's playing a drama or that lady is playing a drama around, I'm saying communicate. I'm saying do what's needful. Still that guy does or that lady continues to do that. You consume yourself with excellence. You consume yourself with a passion, a drive to get the best version of yourself. If you do not, that's going to keep hurting you. I know for sure, as I lived here, and there were people with the best intentions, good guys, nothing bad about them, but just the wrong type in terms of connecting to me. Completely different personality type. Hurts you. They just do things in a certain way, aggressive way, and you can't handle it, right? I learned one thing in all my 22 years. It has helped me grow so deep because I learned how to tolerate it, not based on tolerating, tolerate like that. Learned how to tolerate it by consuming myself with my passion, by consuming myself with what I love to do. I'm here with all of you on Facebook today doing a live session because I decided to consume my mind by what drives me. And when I get consumed by what drives me, when I give myself to what drives me, I'm still surrounded by those hard people. Not because they're bad, but they're just hard. So what do? Well, because you're so consumed, that drama either doesn't affect you or it affects you less, bringing your mental stress levels because of that individual much lower than otherwise. And the fourth thing that I usually like to tell people in dealing with stress and negative pressure that comes by people around us who just don't change because their personality type, their upbringing, their background, whatever it is. The fourth thing that I usually like to tell people is this. Last option, when it's an extreme case scenario. First, change the frequency at which you vibrate. Second, learn to communicate rightly. Third, get consumed by a purpose, get consumed by what you love to do in a situation when you just can't move on. And the fourth is an extreme case scenario where it's so abusive in a personal or a workplace relationship. It's so absolutely abusive that you come to the threshold of a breakdown. Take a break from that person. The last thing to do is take a break from that person. How do you take a break in a personal or a workplace relationship? The first thing is you cut off. That's the fourth point. Cut yourself off. How do you cut yourself off? You cut yourself off by moving away for a while. If it's a personal relationship, take a break, cut off, move away for a while, and get your energy, get your inspiration, stabilize yourself so you can jump back in, consume yourself again and handle it in the future. But if you can't cut off just for that while, well, in some cases, you just have to cut off for good. Don't ruin your mental peace. Don't ruin your life. Work or personal, don't ruin it. Because you are valuable. Your peace is valuable. God created you not to be miserable. Misery is all around us. Like I said, factors of stress are there. But how do you handle it for yourself defines the way you live. Therefore, when I talk about relationships and people, these are the 4 C's. The first C, change the frequency at which you vibrate. Second C, communicate. Third C, consume yourself with your calling and passion. And the fourth C, cut yourself off for a while and jump back. And if it's just too much, you may have to just move out completely without ruining your life totally. The last and the third area that I really want to talk about in terms of handling stress is our personal life. So there's work that we spoke about earlier. Second is people and relationships that we spoke about. and the third is just personal life. And when we're talking about personal life, it's not work that's going wrong. It's okay. Work's going good. It's not people who are doing much. People are okay. It's just me. Some people just are who they are. They just everything to their mind, everything to their heart, and just get stuck inside. Things are going out great. Things outside are going great. But it's internally, my God. Some people take everything to heart. They're just so super sentimental sometimes. So super sensitive. And nothing's wrong literally outside, but they just take it too much. Somebody said something, he didn't even mean it. And it didn't even appear that he meant offense. We just take it and think, oh, he did that, she said that, he said this, he did that. That's what I call personal life. You know, how do you handle that stress? It causes you so much negative pressure. When you're too sensitive and keep taking these things internally, I think this is what we need to do. You know, I always say the same water that's responsible for a boat or a ship to sail through towards the shore or towards the bank, that same water is also responsible, the ship or the boat, to sink into the waters if there is a hole in it. If there's no hole in the boat sails across smoothly. But if there is a hole in the boat, water comes gushing in and makes the boat or the ship sink inside. So similarly, we are all going to be surrounded by so much pressure, like the water. So many things going on, so many issues going on. If we allow those things to regularly enter our minds, what do you think you're going to go through? You are going to go through stress. You are going to go through an emotional turmoil internally. I'll tell you something. We need to learn how to seal the hole of the heart. Which is why my advice is we need a good counselor. I mean, a counselor not as in a psychological counselor necessarily, a good mentor, a good guide who can help us understand, who can help us strengthen our emotions internally, who can help us deal with what we go through internally. Because work's okay, people around are not bad, but it's our mind that's taking it in too much. And the second thing that I advise people in dealing with this personal lack of stability inside, despite everything else going out well outside, is a spiritual practice, a sadhana. Last 22 years I've been chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the names of God, every single day. And believe me, that connection to God, that connection to divinity, that connection to a higher power is very, very powerful to give us that internal strength, to give us that internal resilience, to give us that internal ability and capacity to handle those things that are around us, which not necessarily are causing stress from outside, but we are taking it inside and just stressing ourselves for no reason. Which is why when I talk about stress, I talk about the positive side of stress, which is responsible for our growth, and we should have it, like a stress or pressure on charcoal, which turns it into a diamond. But I also talk about the negative kind of stress, which is when that pressure crosses our tolerance threshold and starts hurting us. And like we discussed the three areas. Number one is work. And in work, the primary key line to remember is this: start liking a part, even a part of the wrong kind of work that you don't like but are stuck with to pay the bills. But also start adding at least a part of the right kind of work that you love doing. That balance will handle you deal with your stress properly. The second kind of thing we spoke about was people and relationships. And remember the 4 C's: change the frequency that you vibrate at. Secondly, communicate and learn the right kind of communication. Thirdly, consume yourself by your drive, your passion, your calling, so that the drama doesn't affect you as much. And fourthly, cut yourself off from people momentarily so that you feel better and jump back in, or if it's just too much and too abusive, permanently, if the need may be, in an extreme case situation. And the third aspect we spoke about in terms of stress is our personal life, where everything else outside seems okay, but we just take it in too much. And when we need to deal with that kind of stress, I think we need good mentors to guide us so that we can navigate our thoughts inside in the right direction and secondly, we need to practice a sadhana, have a spiritual practice, which is our connection to God, in a way that we get that inner strength, become strong from inside to face those things within. I thank you all very, very much for your kind attention. Himanshi, Preeti, Shobha, Parag, I'm so glad that you joined us this evening. Somnath, thank you very much. Shreya, I really, really am so happy that you joined us. Astro, thank you so much for being with us. Neil Shakur, I'm very glad that you joined us. Arpita, thank you very much. Rishabh, thank you very much. And I want to take each of your names. We have 4,500 people online, and I don't know if I can take everyone's name. Princey, thank you very much for that question. Maybe we will answer that at a later point of time. Alka and Suman, thank you very, very much. In the next couple of sessions, whenever we meet next for our Facebook Live, I will consolidate all of the questions that you've asked and take one topic and many questions related to that. Like today, we had consolidated all the stress related questions and took the topic of stress. One day we'll take forgiveness, one day we'll take luck and destiny and karma and all of these things, and this way we can answer the questions. Otherwise, the number of questions are so many and of similar type, it can get a little hard to answer them one by one. So we will consolidate them and take them as topics to address during our Facebook Live session. Jaxia, thank you for joining us again. Deepak, thank you very much. Suruchi, thank you very much all the way for joining us all the way from Australia. Angel Sanchez, very, very glad that you're with us. Avijit, Ashu, thank you very much. I wish you all a great weekend ahead and looking forward to being with you for our Facebook Live session very soon again. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.